I'm good.
Yeah, see, 2 seconds.
Hi, welcome. I first wanted to ask, what was kind of like the starting concept or like idea for this film?
Well, we met each other, the novel, I think Black Love Monster was the initial kind of start. I read it and realized that so many adaptations were leaving a lot of stuff in the forward, that I thought was just so right for adaptation. And so because of that, I kind of, after I read it when I was fresh out of high school, I just knew I needed to do something with it. So, but I didn't have the skill set to kind of like figure out how to adapt it. And took probably, I don't know, 10 years or something like that, like 17 before I finally had all the necessary equipment that I needed, that skill set to be able to kind of start diving into it. But it was a mixture of that as well as, two older sisters who well looked up to and who stepped me a whole lot. So they were kind of my muse as I was going through this.
So I know this film has a very strong social commentary. So I was wondering, like, what are some of the things that you did while you were on set to like establish that the film has a strong social commentary, but also like kind of remain those conventional elements of horror?
Good question. I mean, it was very important, like, to establish on set, I think everyone, but making sure everybody knows how delicate the subject matter is, and making sure it's handled fair, and checking in with each other, and holding each other accountable to make sure we're crafting a story that has truth and to it, and as far as just from the social commentary element of it, and then as far as the horror aspect, that's more me kind of pulling these references that of horror movies that I love, as well as other movies that inspire me, and using those to kind of to craft the genre vehicle that it's running in order to keep that going. Because me and my friends that I work with, we often the saying that we say is we never give the audience their medicine inside of a Snickers bar, stuff like that. Where you don't hopefully realize too much of it, that you're getting your medicine, but you're giving it in a way that you don't realize it.
This is just a question I like really have to ask because I was like curious about it throughout the whole movie. So like, is there a meaning behind Jamal's weapon being like a machete? Like he's the only one with a machete.
Come on, people be wild, man. y'all know people with machetes, man. Like, honestly, I worked on this. I was like a story editor or something. I forgot what service is on this doc show, and it takes place in like New Orleans from like 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. And they basically, it follows like paramedics and stuff, and they, witness a bunch of crazy stuff. And a guy went on a machete spree. I hate it happens, so it's like, yeah, I mean, that's one place, but yeah. It's just, sometimes guns are boring. And like, it's like, you gotta find interesting ways to kind of deal with stuff with horror.
Seeing this film and finding the big screen and everything, what are you most proud of in this film?
From a style standpoint, I really like the dream sequence a lot. It's a real big fan homage to David Lynch. It's one of my favorite directors, so like I love that. And I love being able to pay homage to Aronofsky with the line, Devil's Seasons, which I think is great. And I'm very, very proud of my actors and the performances they kind of turned out. They were just, phenomenal. It's like I definitely feel like, you can say what you want about the movie, but you can't send shots at the actor. It's like they just, all of them are turned up, and if you don't like it, then you're wrong, not the movie, So I'm like, I'm very proud of those things, like I'd say those are probably at the top of my list. Especially with, my DP was kind of, she was doing her thing, she was doing her thistle,
I know you talked about like the book adaptation for this movie and like your sisters being an inspiration, but were there any other like stepping stones or interests you feel like you had when you were younger that really influenced your filmmaking career?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just like, I mean, from a personal level, as I said, with my, a lot of family and stuff like that, but, I think a lot of just, a lot of cinema that I watched that really affected me, when it comes to like, boys and girls, Men's Society, and but just like black cinema in general, like love basketball and like the Eagle, just like all that stuff really kind of gave me a backbone for this, mixed with, these other kind of crazy artists like Aronofsky and David Lynch and like these 70s horror movies like Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like all of these things kind of mixed up into like some weird, like kind of manifested this, but and just really kind of from a personal standpoint, just kind of, never really being able to see what I wanted to see on the big screen, It's like, I was talking to this director and I was like, yeah, we like make these movies that we want, but it's like making a cake that you can't eat, so it's like for the people, but yeah, I would say those things are probably the biggest.
So yeah, as you just talked about, like what got you into film when you were younger. What do you think more young people, specifically more young black people, should be more interested in film?
Do I think more black people should be interested in film? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, it's like a playground that I feel like we've been kind of blocked from or tokenized. You know what I mean? Like that I think the more that we're able to expand that and have more, black filmmakers involved in Hollywood, the more it's gonna open up the grounds for more interesting takes on things. Because as we all know, we're not a monolith and we all have different ideas and all coming from different spaces. And I think the more of us that are involved to do that, the more we're gonna be able to push each other to make interesting things and challenge each other and grow. And, when we only have one person doing stuff like that, it's kind of, it's like it gets a little boring. So I think by having more, I think it's always a good thing.
I think that one of the like really amazing parts of this film is the like editing and especially the sound editing. How much did you like play a role in that? I know that you're the director, but like, was it a lot of you looking at it and being like, oh, I like this, or you like, all hands off, just leave it to the sound editor?
Yeah, I mean, with the sound, he was, this my boy Grant, he, I kind of told him like, I mean, there were certain elements where I had an idea of what I wanted, for instance, when she finally brings Chris back to life, I was very specific with Michael Crozier being like, hands off of this moment, like there will be no music here, and I would tell my sound designer, I'm like, look, this is your Led Zeppelin solo. So, make this like, this is your moment, man. Like, it's like, so, and he really like made it sound huge, and then on top of that, just like, throwing my references at him, with, some of these drum noises and things of that nature, and being particular about just like how we want the sounds to feel, how real they are, and how expressionistic they are. It's just kind of an ebb and flow there. So I was involved, and I made sure to give him his space so he can work. It's more, I just give him the vision for it. He does his thing, and he brings more to it. Where he's just like, well, we should try this, and like, it's kind of like that relationship.
So I know you also earlier when we talked about like how well the actors were. Was there anything specifically that you did with them on set, like that you could communicate with them that you wanted them to perform, I guess performance-wise for them?
I can't say there's anything particular. I could say it's more of like a exploration and a process. For me, it's a matter of like, talking with them a lot about the characters, as well as, I used a week to rehearse with them to really get the character down and the scenes down and or the scenes that we could, because really what it came down, just because we didn't have a lot of time for this. So it's really like finding a scene and like finding the swagger of the scene, and kind of like, okay, so this is it, and using that as kind of a foundation to jump off some of these other scenes, finding different interesting ways to do that. So it's really just in building a lot of trust with my actors, and I told them from the jump on set, I was like, look, if you ever feel like you can do something better, it always will. And I remember Nolan saying this. He was like, when you reset a shot and do a shot again, it takes like 45 minutes to an hour for like a DP costume. You can kind of reset something. But for an actor to do it again, it's just like another 3 minutes. So it's like, to me, I told all my actors, I was like, at any given moment, if you feel like you can do it better, or you don't feel like you got it right, I give you the ability to, like, it's like pull the lever, and I will stop everything and make everybody hate me, and we'll do it again. Like, as frustrating as it is. And I really built a strong trust with them, and then, some of them did pull that lever, and like the result did end up on screen, so it was 100% worth it, so really just building the trust, rehearsals, and listening to each other.
Especially one with Tango and the young lady just going at each other at the end when you got talk about that. That was genius. That Tango and her going back, it's your fault, your fault. That was genius. Honestly, God, it's back and forth on another his monsters out there. He's going, no, you do trouble. They're one of the they come up with that on their own, but they add with it, you reject that.
Yeah. No, it it was that was scripted. There was like some elements of it that were ad-libs, more of like Kango stuff. I utilized him to kind of try to cut her off, but that moment really to me was just about accountability. That was the key word for them, because, they both came up to me like the day of the scene, and were kind of like, we're still trying to figure this out, and, and when we landed on the word, accountability, it really spoke to them, because it's like, yeah, they're like arguing and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, to me, in that scene, they're denying their responsibility for everything that has happened. And so, when you don't want to face what you've done, it's like you're going to use whatever weapon that you have inside you to try to get away from that. You know what I mean? So whether that's, Kango demonizing her and telling her, shut up and you're stupid, what I mean? It's like, like people will belittle people to try to not face, or her relying on her science smarts to try to explain her way out of, the problems that she caused. So, to me, that was like the angle on that.
Yeah, and you they both had to come together.
Yeah, we got to.
So Vicaria's name was a take on Victor from the novel. How did you pull Christopher's name? Was Christ Rose in it?
All right, Go ahead, ask your question.
My question is going to be a final question. I was going to open it
all
up to
right, so
audience.
hold that, yeah. Let me carry you. What's your final question? Yeah.
It was going to be like an ending question. They can talk first.
Okay. All right. So question about Chris, like where his
About the name, that's because I know it's a family name, but I really want to know where that thought came from.
It's whatever you make it, I'm not gonna take that away from the audience. It's your relationship with the movie. I can't rob you of that. I'm not gonna do that. It's important to me, No, in all seriousness, like there's with movies, I just feel like these days, like everyone's trying to explain everything away. There is like a value to kind of hearing thoughts on like how it works, but I think when an audience sits down and watches a movie, there is a certain relationship that you have with the story, and it might speak to you in ways that belongs to you. And I want to make sure that that's respected and treasured, because there are movies that I've watched that mean a lot to me. And, you know, I have my own thought process of how I feel about it, you know, and that's what's special about it to me, you know. So, you know, it's like, whatever you take with it, then I want you to have that. I don't want to just be like, no, you're wrong. Like, it's just like, okay, well, now it doesn't mean anything to me, you know. So, yeah, so don't yell at me at Thanksgiving. You know.
Are there any more audience questions? I can't really see. So
Oh,
if you
I want
could
to
just-
shout out. Is that good? No, that's okay. I got a teacher voice. Well, on that note, that classroom scene jacked me up hard because I work in a classroom and we try to provide a really healthy relationship with the kids, and that scene made me cry because that is the exact opposite of what all of my colleagues and I work for, so that was real rough. Second part, was there a little homage to Walking Dead in that with that dad picking up that hammer because there goes hammer time for Tyrese?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, alright. I got it.
Yes, it is. He came up to me and was just like, yo, for this scene, can I, you know, he asked me, he's like, for my Walking Dead fans, it's gonna be a little callback or whatever. So I was like, yeah, man, just get it in, you know.
Yeah.
Was the deaths of the family parallel to Frankenstein the novel, or was there a different emphasis for the death of the family?
In the novel, the monster definitely brings a lot of destruction to his family, including including Victor Frankenstein's best friend. Murders his, spoiler alert, 200 years. Murders his friend, murders his wife, murders a little boy. It's like, yeah, so it's pretty much, you know, like lifted out of that, and, you know, reinterpreted here. Great novel, you should read it. Yeah, it's incredible.
So for me, this movie was kind of like Tales from the Hood as well. But I was wondering, you mentioned the medicine inside the Snickers bar, the message there. There were a lot of messages from people growing up in the hood, and then just the violence and all that stuff. So for you, what is the message that we need to take from this, or like what are the messages that you're trying to disperse?
Well, first I'll tell you my hot take, which is that I just believe pretty much like 80% of Black horror that's gonna be coming out for the next 10, 15 years, all veins back to Tales from the Hood in some shape or form. You know, and then, you know, like 10 years after that, it's gonna spread off into something else. But I do 100% believe that movie is pretty much like, you know, I watch that. I mean, I love those little weird dolls that bite people. Like, it's like, it's crazy. It kept me up at night. But I do believe that is probably, you know, one of the most influential horror movies for Black cinema to date, whether people know it or not. As far as the themes and stuff like that, I gotta, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff in here that I wanted to express, but I think that's a matter of, again, of a thing where it's up to you what you're taking from it. I can't really, I don't want to deny you that thought process walking out of the theater and what you're thinking and how you're feeling. You know, whether it's you think it was empty or whether you feel like there was stuff to say, that's for you to, you know, to have. You know, so it doesn't matter whether you hate the movie or you love it. It still is your relationship with the cinema. So, I'm sorry not to be a jerk about it, but like I just don't want to deny you that entertainment value, because I do feel like that's a part of the film. You know, and it's like I can play it. Sorry, Queen.
I feel like the person that you tell.
Okay, so as far as the cast, first off, the movie was great. It scared the hell out of me. I was sitting back here with my hand over my eyes the whole time. It's a great movie. But as far as the cast, like you have Denzel in there, like
what is your relationship with them? Like, was it easy to cast them? Like the lead, she was amazing. She reminded me of me. So it's like, so like, how was it like as far as like casting them? Did you already know them? Like, did you have someone like search for them? Like, you knew when you saw them, like, I want them for this specific role. Like, how did that work out? Because the casting was perfect, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in this film except for Chad, because you know, he don't audition. You just know. You know, Chad. It's just like, you know. But everybody else in this film, they like my casting directors brought them in for auditioning, and when I saw them and started working with them, it was more of a process of be like, all right, who's clicking and who's, you know, and who's vibing with what I'm saying and who's getting the material and you know those things, and you know it's just slowly became night and day. I will say that, you know, Leia out the gate was just, that was the one. You know, like as soon as she did her first rehearsal, you just knew immediately, or audition I should say, I just knew immediately, and like, you know, I emailed the producers like immediately the next morning, was just like, yo, just stop. Stop casting, like she's right here, like, you know. And then they're like, let me see, you know. It's like, all right, bro, like, waste of time, but like, you know, they went in there and then they saw her, they were just like, oh, yeah, stop auditioning, you know. So, but yeah, she was just phenomenal actress, and then the same with, you know, little girl like Amani, she was, you know, fantastic, very instinctual. It was just her first feature, and she just had all the instincts of a great actress, you know, and like, I mean, she came up with mouthing the alphabet, you know, on her own, like, so she just had the instincts necessary. So I, you know, put her on.
Awesome. Great cast.
Are you special effects or just fantastic?
You talking about the gore? Yeah, it was my, she was a one woman band on this thing. She did the creature and she did all the gore. She was doing everything. And yeah, she was just fantastic, and she kind of just has her own little shop that she like understands and works with all these huge people who do all these shows like Walking Dead and like all this crazy stuff, but she's, you know, she wants her own autonomy, so she's doing her own thing. But yeah, she came on and like just you know, smacked out of the park, you know. It's like she understands, you know, my references on, you know, what I like. When it came to the gore, I was really like, I love a director named Cronenberg, and he does incredible body horror, and so I was referencing him and other things, and she took to it and really added so much to it, and really embraced the vision of what was going on. So working with her was like a dream, but you know, she was putting to work. She did it all, like she literally did it all, which was awesome, you know. And I gotta bring her on the next one and pay her double, like, because she did it, you know.
There's been a lot of discussion in Black cinema, especially about the depiction of Black suffering, Black trauma, Black pain in film. Was that at the forefront of your mind when you created this, or so how do you address it?
Oh, absolutely not. Of course, you know, it was something that was, I mean, I think the way for me to approach it was that when dealing with that was, this is obviously a morbid subject matter. And to me, you shouldn't shy away from, you know, if I'm going to dive into this story, which is, you know, resurrection and reanimation. It's like there's an automatic nature of, you know, trauma that's going to be attached to that. So it's important to portray that and not look away from that, but at the same time, the other thing was just like to show the joy, you know, that's in here, to show both sides. I just remember hearing Tupac is a very influential artist to me. Like I grew up in, like, in one of his interviews, he talked about, you know, they're talking about what makes the rapper like an artist, and he just like, you can't, you know, just glorify the vibes without talking about the pain that comes from it. You know, it's like you can't only do one side. It's like you have to do both. And to him, that's what marks a good artist, you know, or a good rapper. And to me, my way in was with Bacaria, even though she's dealing with morbid subject matter, and you know, it has this family that was broken by these things. She has found a passion, and it might sound twisted, but for her, this is her passion. And anything that you are passionate about, I think you will be excited about. You will be happy about. You know, it's just like this is exciting to her. You know, it's just like there are people who work in morgues, and that is their passion. They're happy to do that. You know, it's an honor to be able to present someone to you for the last time to try to clean them up for you. Like, it sounds twisted, but it's like, it is an honor to be able to try to do that for a family in one of their worst moments. You know, so for me, coming into this with her, like my way in to try to combat that and try to go through all these angles was funneling through her passion. You know, more than her just being mopey or whatever. You know, it's like it just doesn't, that didn't vibe with me with this. It was more of like this girl, she's in love with science. It's why you see her walking with this girl and they're quizzing each other on the periodic table. You know, it's why when she's operating on her brother, the excitement of being able to see him again, you know, it's like these things to me is how I came at it, you know, in order to try to combat that.
And I just want to say to the teachers real quick is that now that you just made that statement, that explains that whole classroom. That was her passion, like how in a classroom learning. And a lot of times students are in situations in their classroom where they're there on this level and then the environment is totally different. But that explains a lot of why she was the way she was in the classroom. All right, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Is it true that you do a cameo in your movies?
I do have a cameo in this movie.
Where?
The face that she is operating on is a mold of my face. I did trivia. Yeah. You got one.
Yeah, I love the fact that you talk about the need to talk about the uncomfortable thing. That being said, as I was watching the movie, it's crazy because it's one of the more emotional horror movies that was not centered around the horror and horror. And not only just having anecdotes of truth, it was proof that there's a lot of things involved. I was gonna ask, what was the process of being to kind of find that pain that was really making and almost tangible throughout?
Y'all ain't playing tonight. I think like, you know, for me, I think there's a catharsis in that, you know, just like there's a catharsis in expressing how you feel. You know, it's like whether it's through excitement or crying or whatever it might be, and everything in between. It's like there's a catharsis in that. And so for me, I didn't want to cut anyone short from that. When dealing with these performances and them expressing how they feel, you know, from an emotional standpoint, it's important to me to showcase those vulnerabilities, you know, and exercising how many different avenues vulnerability can express itself, because vulnerability doesn't necessarily need to mean that you're trying, you know, vulnerability can also mean putting on a tough show, you know. So to me, like just allowing for those expressions and that catharsis in this movie, I think, at least I hope, will allow the audience to kind of go on this ride. You know, it's like, because if you take that frustration, like with the outside, you know, it's like that's when people get mad, because, or at least that's how I feel, you know. So for me, when going through it, it just felt like allowing the characters to have that frustration allows us to kind of call attention to itself, to be like, you know, this is messed up, it's why I'm here, you know, and especially for Bacaria throughout this, where she's passionate about her things, but when it turns on her, it's something that hurts her the most, because when you're passionate about something, you're also vulnerable about it, it's important to you. So hope that answers your question. Well, y'all have a thought there.
I'm just enjoying my mouth and our experience. I'm sure it does for me. Yeah, my question for you was, what was your process with funding? I want to know that.
Yeah. The dark arts of finding funding is a little bit out of my repertoire as a director. That was really was me kind of just like, I was pushing the script around. My manager was taking it around town to find some producers who could wheel and deal and sell this crazy idea, So it wasn't a matter of just, from my end, it was, excuse my French, but just a kind of getting your shit together and being able to pitch and present your idea in ways that sounds enticing to potential financiers. I'm glad you asked that, because it's a good question. And a lot of times people don't understand. It's I know it sounds cold to not be able to, when you need what you say is pitch and all this other stuff, but it's just people, when you understand that nobody wants to read your script and no one wants to watch the movie, and no one even really wants to have time for you, because they're doing 1,000 other things or whatever, it makes you understand why walking into a room and respecting someone's time and being able to be this is the idea in the most feasible way possible to kind of ignite something from them. It's when I say this is a modern retake, Frankenstein through the eyes of a teenage black girl. It's look, it's an easy, quick thing to do. It's just to tease. It's just so having those things in your back pocket, being able to present yourself and your ideas and express them in a way that doesn't feel like it's wasting anybody's time, and in a professional manner, I think really helped me excel, because when I brought it to the producers at first, they were well, we're just gonna produce a $100,000 movie, and that'll be that, so they read the script and they're just yeah, can you make it for $100,000? Great, and but then there's well, let's hear your pitch, and so I pitched I pitched my ass off. That's how I did it with everything. It was the last pitch I could probably do, and then and I wasn't even pitching to get more money. I was just pitching to get the movie made. And after they heard my pitch, they were just we need to get more money for this. So it's that kind of selling yourself in a way like that, I think is crucial. Somewhere, but you here.
Yeah, I have one more question on the ending. So unique. Would you consider this a happy ending?
That's up to you, man. It's it's up to you. It's yeah. I just, the only thing I will say is that spoiler alert, Victor dies at the end of the book. But for me, I did write drafts where it went the other way, just to explore this story in every way that I felt, just to make sure. It's I don't want to just do something just to do it. I want to make sure the story, is told right. And it never felt emotionally right to have her kind of just fold at the end of this movie. It just didn't. And personally speaking, from my viewpoint, in the culture, we always double down. My example will always be rap music. It came out in the 80s and people were trashing it. We doubled down and got more in the 90s. They trashed it. We doubled down in the 2000s again. Started making it more pop. Then we doubled down again. It's and now it's one of the highest. It's just So it's to me, it's just as far as the trajectory for how we deal with things. It's I know it may seem grim at times, but we do have W's. You know me? So, yeah,
Thank you again for taking the time to be with us today.
thank you for having me.